Okay, awesome. Awesome, thank you so much. So here we have a group of criminal justice instructors and biology instructors and a technology major, Luis Flores, who wanted to get together after a casual conversation as to how students who are females in the biology field and criminal justice field are more successful, but there's a lack of documentation of data in this area. And so they thought that we could just get together and gather this data and just publish it because they see it all the time and they want to yell it from the top of the mountains, right? So again, I'm going to go over the basics of the paper, which is the purpose, problem, research methods, the data collection, findings, implications, and recommendations for future researchers. So when we look at the vision of this research project, as I mentioned earlier, it came about through casual conversation. And the vision for this research project, again, was to create awareness of how the Latino ethnic student population in higher education success needs more monitoring or data gathering of the influential factors, because that group alone has a very unique culture. And so we need to know more as to how all the variables play a part in academic success, because those rates in higher education is very low. So the problem here is the lack of research in this field again, and how we need higher rates, higher success rates in this fast growing population. And so the purpose is to understand whether gender, major, and technology actually does play a role in students in a Hispanic serving institution. So when we looked at the literature and we looked at and we broke it down by gender, major, and technology, we saw that gender does play a role in the Latino ethnic group. Women, as you know, as compared to the general population, are more successful in higher education. But we did find that parents' education influences the female Latina student success rates in higher education, and also a support system helps more female Latina students compared to male Latino students. When we look at data based on majors, we have the Latino ethnic students who have mentors who are pursuing majors, because not all majors have mentors or a system that actually assigns a mentor to the student in that field. There's also research that has found that different support programs focused on attaining a degree also help the students succeed in higher education. Then we looked at technology. The research in technology in the Latino ethnic population in general says technology contributes to success rates. Specifically, e-portfolios had enhanced the learning process or experience, and web-enhanced instructional technologies increased academic success. My favorite is that technology has been found to decrease the tendency to plagiarize. So I really like that. And yet again, I included conflict theory to explain how the macro groups are fighting for the scarce resources of attaining a higher education, because there's elite jobs that require higher education degrees. And with these degrees, and only with these degrees, you'll get the elite jobs. So there's a competition for that scarce resources there. So again, I provided a graph so you could see how the variables were visualized in this research. We have the Latino ethnic students, and then we have the gender, major, technology, and we wanted to focus on, do these variables actually play a role in the academic success in this group? The question focus was, to what extent, if any, does gender, major, and technology use increase academic success in the Latino ethnic students in higher education? We have the null and the hypothesis. This is just a section of the survey that was being used. For those of you who use surveys, you know you find gold when you actually find a survey that has been tested and, you know, for reliability and validity by someone else, and you ask them for permission and they say yes. This survey had all the questions we needed. We got permission to use it. We did not analyze all the questions, but we did analyze the questions that we thought pertinent to understanding the variables that we wanted to focus on. When we collected the data, in the southern region of Texas. We did get approval from the IRB. That was super easy because we got approval to use the survey. The faculty were sought out from different fields, but not all of them were actually very active in actually administering the survey on our behalf. More on that later. The instrument was created online, and we did create demographic questions to help us gather the data. And only 2 reminders were sent out in the fall, and these procedures were replicated in the spring. The population were the Latino-ethnic students enrolled in the Hispanic institution. The goal, based on the G-power analysis, was 88 for both the spring and the fall, but we gathered 149 in the spring and 149 in the fall and 90 in the spring. And so if you look at the histograms, keep in mind that we use the PSPP program again, which is free. And we got the fall and the spring results, which is skewed, and this one is for gender. We had more females in the fall, more males in the spring. We had majors, that's criminal justice, and this is one of the reasons that criminal justice instructors actually helped us out, because they wanted to see their students shine. They knew that they were going to do this to our survey, and they did. We looked at the question that says technology provides positive changes in student learning, and so that data was also skewed. So and this last but not least, GPA, students had 3.0 GPAs higher in both semesters. Forgive me, PSPP was not working with me. It wanted to do its thing, but overall it gave us the histograms that does represent the raw data. So I double checked all that. And this one's a GPA again for the fall, the spring. Here we had run the Kolmogorov-Smirnov test, and so it was significant for gender, major, GPA, and technology poses positive change in student learning. However, in the spring, GPA was not significant, but we did go ahead and fail to excuse me, let me just stick to the slides. Limitations included us using PSPP. As you saw in the graphs, it was not very friendly, but nonetheless, it did represent the raw data. Again, I double checked. Participation from the students from different majors, preferably all majors, would be beneficial, but that did not happen. Here we have, participations from, and Latino ethnic ancestry items were needed. I mean, there's so many categories under the Latino ethnic group that we would have loved to have subcategories. So recommendations would be to create Latino ethnic group and academic success research in the future, whether it's including qualitative data or quantitative, more classroom observations, focus groups, because we want to know the how and why these variables play a role. Technology resource advancements also, it's growing and changing so fast that we need to keep up with these kinds of advancements and how they play a role in the student learning process. Usage of computers and interactive teaching software, that in itself needs to be studied. It's completely different from understanding what the students use. Oh, and excuse me, random sample would be ideal so that we could make the findings representative of the population. Ethnic subgroups, as mentioned earlier, would be ideal to research as well. So we did reject the null hypothesis, and that is it for my presentation. Do we have any questions?